Welcome to Flashback Friday.
Hi, welcome to the Silver Spleen. My name is Buck Morris, and this is my review of The Big Boss. The martial arts film certainly didn't start with Bruce Lee, but his impact on it was so big that the genre became something completely different. The moment Bruce Lee became a part of Hong Kong martial arts cinema, nothing was the same ever again. Luckily for us, that moment was captured on, or maybe in, film. The Big Boss tells the story of a group of Chinese men working in an ice factory in Thailand in the early 1970s. As you can easily imagine, selling ice isn't very profitable, even in a country that's hot 400 days a year. Turns out there's something in the ice that's worth a lot more than frozen water. This is why the film was originally called The Chinese Connection. The title was meant to capitalize on the success of The French Connection, a movie that told the true story of the breakup of a Corsican smuggling ring that was bringing heroin into America. In fact, the demise of The French Connection led to the Chinese underworld's dominance of the global heroin trade in the 1970s. But never mind that, because weighty geopolitical issues are the last thing we should be talking about in reference to The Big Boss. There's almost nothing weighty or important about this movie other than its star. The Big Boss wasn't an expensive movie to make, and I don't think that they spent very long filming it. And in a lot of ways, it really shows its age. And I don't mean the outfits. I'm talking about the cinematography, the acting, the script, and most of the action choreography. If it weren't for Bruce Lee, we probably wouldn't be talking about The Big Boss very much, if at all. The film was originally written as a star vehicle for James Teen, who spends the first half of the movie kicking ass in the Shaw Brothers style, which makes sense because that's where he worked before shifting over to Golden Harvest. But somewhere along the line, while they were making this movie, people realized that this new Bruce guy is pretty good. And before you know it, James Teen's character disappears halfway through the movie. Enter the Bruce. Every time Bruce Lee is on screen, you can't look at anybody else. People may not know or may have forgotten that Bruce Lee made movies as a child. He was already an accomplished film actor, and even without martial arts, he still had an incredible amount of screen presence. And because he spends the first half of The Big Boss not fighting, we can watch him acting. His facial expressions, his mannerisms, and especially his smile are all really effective, especially in the context of the, frankly, horrible surroundings. And that may sound harsh, and it may be, but it's obvious from the beginning of the film that Bruce Lee was above and beyond the whole rest of the cast combined in just about any way you look at it. With one exception, a very young Lam Tseng-ying appears in this movie, and he was just as good a martial artist and, as it turned out later, just as good an actor as Bruce Lee. But I digress. What I'm trying to say is that Bruce Lee makes his mark on the Big Boss before he ever starts fighting. And once he starts fighting, it's over. Although the choreography is still pre-Bruce, he makes it look a lot better by virtue of being so fast and precise that sometimes you can barely see him. His counterparts aren't nearly as good, but it's still thrilling to see the genesis of a phenomenon in these fight scenes. Like I said, we get to witness the first moments of a man quite literally changing the world, because after this, nothing was ever the same again. So to me, the greatest value of The Big Boss is that it captures the moment when everything changed, and it shows in very stark clarity the old and the new. On a nostalgic level, The Big Boss is a lot of fun to watch. There really isn't anything quite like the 1970s martial arts bad guy. Like I said, The Big Boss isn't a great cinematic achievement other than the fact that it introduces Bruce Lee to the world. It's still a lot of fun to watch, and if you're as old as I am, you can look back at some of those fashions and remember people walking around in them. Besides, even after 40 years, it's still pretty amazing to see just how much Bruce Lee lights up the screen. So obviously, I think you should watch this movie. Even if you've seen it before, watch it again. And while I always encourage you to watch movies legally, this movie, I'm going to encourage you to buy the nicest DVD or Blu-ray edition that you can find. Most of them are packed with all kinds of extra stuff, commentaries, documentaries, things like that. I didn't try to explain much of this movie because I'd be here for an hour and a half and still not scratch the surface. Other people have done a lot better job of it than I could ever do. So buy yourself a disc and watch everything about it, and then watch the movie again. In the description, I've included a link where you can buy a disc. If you enjoyed the review, please let me know. If you didn't enjoy it, let me know. If you enjoy the channel, please subscribe. Thank you for watching. Watching The Big Boss again on DVD reminded me of some of the times that I'd seen it before. When I was in high school in the early 1980s, my father and I went to the Granby Cinema in Norfolk, Virginia to watch a double feature of The Big Boss and Fist of Fury. It wasn't a very good neighborhood, but I have to say that my dad and I really enjoyed the movies and the commentary track that the audience provided. Then, when the movie was over, we got what they call the f*** out. The next week at school, a number of my friends pointed out how stupid and crazy I was to have gone to that neighborhood to watch those movies. I think they were just jealous.